There's a simple formula for changing almost any aspect of your life, and bear with me here. It's effort plus consistency plus reward times learning equals change. People tend to set these big dramatic goals tied to big dramatic effort, but most accomplished people do not make an extraordinary effort. They do ordinary things for unusual periods of time. This is the opposite of what most people do, which is push too hard and then give up too soon. Good normal effort is intense enough to create change, but it's easy enough to be committable. Meaningful change is built from what we do day after day. You know the people who make those grind set videos about waking up at 4:30 a.m. and then they go straight to the gym, they take a cold shower, 110% throughout the day, then, come home and watch Alex Hormozy videos or whatever. How many of them actually sustain that effort? If they ever even did that in the first place, most burn out. We've painted this completely unrealistic picture of productivity. It's more performance art than anything else. Intensity moves the needle, but consistency is what moves the mountain. If you burn out or you injure yourself after a month, as I have done countless times in the gym at this point, it is not committable. If you need to totally reorganize your life to do it, it's probably not committable. When people start exercising, they often make these two different mistakes at the same time. They don't do the activity very frequently, and when they do, they make it way too difficult. They think to themselves, for a workout to count, I need to be at the gym for an hour, working hard, doing uncomfortable things. But that sounds really painful and difficult, and I need to get over this big mental hurdle every time I head to the gym. So I'm just going to do it once a week. It's the worst of both worlds. They're not getting many reps, and they're making it difficult for those reps to be enjoyable. And as a quick note, I frequently use exercise as an example in my videos and on the podcast. It's not because I'm trying to convince you to exercise, although, hey, sure, that too, but because it's just a great example. Most people find consistent exercise difficult. They think they should exercise more than they do, and they don't know how to exercise well. And then they have an emotionally complicated relationship with their body. There's a lot going on here. Exercise is also really easy to track. It has a ton of modifiable variables, and it's mostly dependent on your own effort. There's not a lot of fuzz to it. You either went for a walk or you didn't, and you know exactly how long you were walking for. Anyways, back to the video. A question I often ask people when I talk with them about this kind of stuff is, what's the 5-minute activity you can actually commit to day after day? The 5 minutes of reading or writing, exercise, meditation, whatever it is that you're trying to do. Investing in your relationship, doing that task that will take a few minutes, but you've been putting off forever, just 5 minutes. Make it too small to fail. Most of the time, what you'll find is you start with 5 minutes and you think, that was easy, why not do a little more? 5 minutes becomes 10, becomes 20. Those efforts compound over time, and it's only when you look back that you realize how far you've come. All right, so that's a little on effort and consistency. But reward is the big one here, because it's the one that usually gets missed. If you want to understand behavior, any kind of behavior, there is a simple rule. What's rewarded is repeated. What's punished is avoided. This is sometimes called the law of effect, and it's as true for humans as it is for any other animal. And it sounds really obvious, right? Life is carrots and sticks. We give ourselves carrots to pull us toward the things we should do more of, and then we use sticks to push ourselves away from the things we should do less. But the law of effect is actually a big problem for us because we often frame what we should do as essentially a form of punishment. We don't want to have that hard conversation or exercise or, in my case, eat more vegetables or whatever else, but we know we should. We're trying to flog ourselves up the hill, and that approach is just never going to yield the consistency that creates real change. The way that most people approach change is actually backwards. For years, I set goals that sounded something like this. It would be really great if Forrest, third-person perspective, did all these useful things. If he woke up earlier, if he played fewer video games, and he went to the gym more often. The tone was critical and punishing. There was nothing enjoyable or meaningful I was trying to motivate myself toward, just a list of things I really liked that I was trying to take away from myself. In other words, I was trying to get myself to embrace the stick and run away from the carrot. And then I woke up on February 3rd and I wondered why I hadn't made any progress toward my resolutions. It is remarkable how brutal people are with themselves. I have found ways to self-punish even when I did the good thing, To continue the exercise examples, I would go to the gym, I would work hard, I would put some effort in, and I'd still feel terrible. I didn't do it for as long as I should have. I probably looked dumb. What am I doing? Nothing ever gets better. This is a waste of time, and so on and so on. Even after taking that first step, which is the hardest one to take, I would feed myself this diet of self-criticism. It's no wonder that I was demotivated. We need to move away from a change model that's based on self-criticism toward something else. So what's the alternative? If repetition is what creates the engine of change, what keeps that engine running? Well, it's rewards. The function of that punishing voice is to keep you safe by keeping you the same. Even if your life sucks, your brain knows you can probably survive if you just keep on doing what you're doing. It cares about keeping you alive and hopefully getting you to pass on some gene copies. It's not so concerned with happiness or fulfillment. The brain doesn't want to change, and if we want to adopt a behavior, we need to get the brain on our team. This means figuring out how to make that behavior something that is worth repeating for it. We do this by finding aspects of it that are rewarding before, during, and after doing it. There are many ways to do this. Maybe you could think about how this behavior connects to some value of yours, how you could notice the authentically enjoyable parts of it. How could you take in the good and maximize the sense of accomplishment once you've done the thing that you set out to do? What are some big, shiny, aspirational objects that you're moving toward? How does this step bring you a little bit closer to what you care about? This is how we move from a punishment mindset to a pursuit mindset. Running away from something and running toward it can land you at the same destination, but the journey feels very different. As we apply some of these ideas, finding a level of effort that you can commit to, emphasizing day after day consistency, and focusing on the rewarding aspects of an experience, something really cool starts to happen. We get through the initial wall of awful, we book a few wins, and we begin to experience more natural motivation. Behavioral activation is one of the most powerful forces in psychology. This means that motivation follows action, not the other way around. We don't start motivated, we get motivated. When you have a 12-week streak going, you really want to keep that streak. Give an effort, repeat it, reward it, and it's hard not to get better at what you're doing. Getting better feels good. You start to see some returns from that effort, and finding the rewards becomes easier and easier. Every rep teaches you something. But here's how we turbocharge the whole process, by getting better at improving the quality of those repetitions and maximizing the learning we do along the way. There is an enormous amount of research on learning on how to improve the quality of our reps. And you'll find some points in common across pretty much every domain. Whether it's athletes or musicians or even meditators, the practice habits of truly elite performers tend to have 4 things in common. They are very consistent, they find the right level of difficulty, they have frequent cycles of high-quality feedback, and they embrace don't know mind. We've already talked about consistency, so let's focus a bit on the other ones. There's a concept in exercise science called rate of perceived exertion, which is a way to measure how intense an activity is. A 10 is your maximum effort, a 1 is a bit more effort than lying on the couch, and this is often used to calibrate how many reps somebody has left in the tank. A 10 means you have done the absolute maximum possible number of reps, a 9 means you've got maybe 1 rep left before you hit failure, and most good workouts are between a 6 to a 9 on this scale. This takes us back to what I was saying at the beginning of the video. Good effort lives in the Goldilocks zone. It is not so hard that you're overwhelmed, but it's hard enough to make it worthwhile. And this is really consistent with the research on flow from psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, who found that flow states were more likely to appear when a person's skill was well matched to the challenge that they were facing. And flow is characterized by this feeling of absorption and fulfillment and, capability, where self-consciousness falls away. When a task is either too difficult or too easy, we tend to concentrate on it more than we normally would, which increases self-consciousness. This self-consciousness then makes it hard to perform at our best. The takeaway here is the better that we get at picking things that are well matched to our current level of skill, the more likely we are to experience competency. So how do we do that? By taking small bites and ramping things up as we go. Most people, again, remember, 5 minutes. Most people take bites that are far too big, and then they get mad at themselves when they can't chew and swallow. The gold standard workout programs for beginners recommend with starting with no weight on the bar, even if you can move the bar pretty easily. Early sessions focus on technique, and you get to feel like you are just crushing it from the very beginning. We want it to feel too easy. If you increase the weight by just 5 pounds per workout, it only takes a few weeks before you start moving real weight. And you accomplish that while improving your technique, reducing your injury risk, and figuring out what the appropriate level of difficulty is for you. Think about how you might apply this approach to different areas of your life. You can go back to the beginning of the video. If you're struggling to build any kind of practice, whether it's meditating or learning the guitar, forget 5 minutes. Could you start with committing to just 1 minute a day? If you increase the amount of time you're spending each day by just that 1 minute, you're doing 20 minutes a day in a few weeks. Make it too easy to fail, and then increase the difficulty slowly until you've found that right level. All right. So we've dialed in our consistency and we found the right difficulty. How do we keep on getting better? One of the best ways to learn quickly is by shortening the iterative cycle. This is how long it takes to go from version A to a meaningfully different version B. We figure out what a small unit of work is, we run that rep, review it, make a single tweak, and then repeat. It's easy enough to see how this could apply to a physical skill like playing the piano or lifting a weight, but it can be a bit harder to figure out how to apply this principle to more, amorphous things like personal development. The key concepts here are active engagement with the experience and shortening the distance between action and signal. We are not sleepwalking through whatever it is that we're doing. We're participating with it. We're curious about it. We're doing it the best we can right now. Then rather than just doing the same thing over and over, we're approaching it like a scientist. What did we do? How did it go? What can we change in the future? The trick is to keep the unit of work pretty small. Musicians don't play through the whole 5-minute long piece to practice a single 20-second section, and focus on changing one thing at a time. Make the change, try it again, see what happens. Long feedback loops where there's this big gap between what you do and the response you see to it really tend to sap motivation, but short, high-quality loops let you adjust things while the experience is still really alive for you. In order to receive feedback, whether it's from ourselves or from another person, we need to be open to the possibility that we don't know it all. As we move through life and we acquire more information, that learning has a lot of benefits, but it comes with a big downside. There is a trade-off with flexibility. This has been really well studied. As people become more proficient, they become more attached to their way of thinking about the world. They lose beginner's mind. I used to be a pretty rigid person. I've talked about this in my videos in the past, in part because my identity was built around being the person who knew the right answer. When my self-worth was wrapped up in that identity, it became very difficult for me to admit when I didn't know what I was doing. And this is an example of a formative belief. We are all carrying around this backpack of beliefs, and the more strongly we buy into our beliefs, the harder it becomes to take in new information and change how we act. As we learn more, we need to increasingly balance that learning with a kind of openness to possibility that includes a willingness to say, I don't know. That I don't know is one of the most important phrases that we have in English. I think that almost everyone could be benefited by saying it a little bit more often, and it's been a huge learning point for me personally. I hope you enjoyed this video. This is the second shorter video I've done recently. The first one on boundaries got a great response from people, which is part of why I'm doing this one. So let me know what you thought about it, if you'd like to see more videos like this in the future, and if so, what topics you'd like me to explore. As long as you're down in the comments section, you might as well subscribe, hit the bell icon so you get notifications when I post a video in the future. And hey, if you sent the video to a friend that you thought, could benefit from it, that would also really help me out. So until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.